Good afternoon, everybody. Hello to everyone on the call. A big thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come and speak with you today. I'm super excited to be able to spend this time with you sharing my story. And I'm super excited, more importantly than that, to have the discussion about mental health and to have the discussion about hope. Hope for today, hope for tomorrow, hope for our future. So as you all heard in my introduction, my name is Chelle Thompson. I'm a former professional athlete. And when people hear former professional athlete, the word superhuman comes up because professional athletes are thought of as superhumans. And that's kind of true in a way, because we have to be superhuman to do some of the things that we do. We have to be a different breed for the physicality of the competition and the mentality of the competition. But I want you guys to focus on the second part of that title, human. We are human. We have the same traumas. We have the same tragedies. We have the same life situations and experiences as the ordinary person. And just like the ordinary person, if we don't attend to ourselves and find healthy ways to cope, just like the ordinary person, we eventually crash and burn. So when it comes to mental health, there's three things that come to mind for me. Number one, mental health is generational. What do I mean by that? That means not only are the hurts of our ancestors and our great-great-great-grandparents and our parents passed on down to us, but how they cope with those issues are passed down to us as well. What does that mean? If you come up in a family that teaches you that crying is not the best thing to do to handle your emotions, crying is a sign of weakness, especially for men. Men, you're taught not to cry or show emotion. That's not good for your mental health. I've learned in my journey that the word emotion means energy and motion, and crying is just releasing energy. Sometimes we grow up in families where we can't talk about things. We can't express our feelings. That's not good for our mental health. We're called a sissy or weak. And in my case, I grew up in a family where we always had to be tough. Like we couldn't show anybody that we were upset. We had to be tough and strong. And for women, can't always voice your opinion, or you have to be submissive. And so we go through generational traumas, and our responses are usually fight or flight. Next thing is resiliency. Mental health is resiliency. And with this, it's the understanding that in resiliency, we have the ability to bounce back from things. We have the ability to go through situations and understand that our situations are never meant to break us down or to make us give up, but instead they're there to teach us the strength and the courage that lies deep within all of us, the superpowers that lie within all of us. And it's taking those situations and each time we go through them, understanding resiliency, that each time we bounce back a little bit quicker. That's the beauty of resiliency. And then third, mental health is elusive. It's really tough sometimes to confront or face our fears, our anxieties, our sadness, our depression, our grief. And sometimes in mental health, we have to dig up those old emotions and those wounds, and we have to look them into the face and say, you know what, I see you, I recognize you. And that's not always hard. That's not always easy to do. The other side of that is if we work hard enough and we want it bad enough, we can take control of our lives and we can take control of the situations. And if we need to, seek professional help, and we can turn things around. We can become much happier and healthier and peaceful individuals. So for me, the above 3 points are very present in my life. They have been very present in my life. I've witnessed and experienced things that have tended to my generational traumas. I've witnessed and I've experienced things. I've had to look at the resiliency and my own ability to learn how to cope and to be strong and have courage and bounce back from things that have happened in my life. some harder than others. And lastly, I've had to take control of my life. I've had to practice consistency on how I approach the stressful situations in my life. So today I want to inspire you guys. I want to inspire you to look at things differently. I hope to inspire you to find the strength within yourself to bounce back. I hope to inspire you to know that there is a better day that's waiting ahead. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And lastly, we're all about solutions. I'm all about solutions. And I'm going to explain to you how meditation and mindfulness, which was introduced to me 7 years ago by my partner, has completely transformed my life. Like completely in astronomical ways. And so I begin with this. My dream to become a professional athlete began when I was probably 5 years old, but all of my life I wanted to be a professional athlete. I excelled in basketball and track, and in the small town of Big Lake, Texas, there wasn't much to do, really wasn't much to do. Sport was it. And not only was sport the only thing we did because we're in a small town, for me, sport was an outlet. It was escapism. It was a way for me to get away from some other things that I was experiencing in my life. And just like anything, when you spend a lot of your time doing one thing, you become very good at it. And I want you guys to take note of that, because it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. You do something bad for you or unhealthy for you long enough, you become really good at it. If you think a certain way that's unhealthy for a long time, you become really good at that too. And so I want you guys to remember that you're paying attention to your thoughts. Become good at thinking positive things. So my first story starts with me as a 12-year-old. I'm in 7th grade. I'm in my first track meet of my middle school career, and I'm a triple jumper, right? My first jump of my 7th grade middle school career, I landed and I tore all 4 major ligaments in my knee, my ACL, PCL, MCL, and LCL. And it was a really traumatic injury, like super, super traumatic. And not only was I going through that as a 7th grader and as a 12-year-old, at the same time, my mom had just been diagnosed with lupus and diabetes and was on her deathbed. She wasn't even at the track meet. And so at the age of 12, I have doctors who are telling me that my professional career is at stake. And at the age of 12, I'm looking at my super heroine, my mother, my best friend, my confidant, my everything, my mentor, as she's fighting for her life. No one told me how to cope with that. No one told me how to handle the fact that my career may be at stake, but also the most important person in my life could not be there anymore. That does something to your mental health. But my mom was all about positivity. She always taught me to find the positive in every situation. This was no different. So although this was a very rough experience for me, and I knew my comeback was going to be hard, I also knew that who I would be at the other side of it was what mattered. This was not about me tearing my knee. It was about the character that was going to come from me moving through the situation. And so I made a decision, because when you're going through things, it is all about a choice. I made the choice to say, okay, I choose to be the person that makes it through this. I choose the person to be strong. I choose the person who will never give up, because who I was at the other end of this experience really mattered to me. So in that, I learned about my own strength. I learned about courage. I learned about my own ability to come back. I learned my ability to choose to come back. And then more than anything, I learned that with the right mindset, I could come back from anything. My second story, I speak about my mother. Again, very impactful in my life. She was everything. We ended up getting through the situation, ended up getting through the rough time, her going through her experience by herself, me by myself, and then the two of us together as a team. But we made it. Fast forward, I get a scholarship, a track and basketball scholarship, get to go to Texas Tech, had a great career there. And we are on the plane traveling to New York City for draft day because my dream had come true. I was being drafted into the Wnba. How sweet is that? We literally grinned from ear to ear the whole time. But it was just so amazing because we knew what we had been through together as individuals. So make it to New York, played a year there. I got cut the next year, and I get picked up by the Indiana Fever. And so I'm at the Indiana Fever practice. It was actually the day of a game. And we were that morning having a shoot around, and we had practice guys that come in. So guys that come in and practice against us and stuff like that. And we were just sitting and talking after shoot around. And one of the guys looks at my shoes and he goes, "Wow." And he started laughing. He goes, "Why do you have 'wow' written on your shoe?" And I was like, "Well, it says 'wow' from where you're standing, but from where I'm standing, it says 'mom.'" And I say, I write "mom" on my shoes because when I look down and I lace up my shoes, this is like a tribute to her. You know, she's my why. She is the reason why I get up and I do the things that I do every day. She's my inspiration. And he kind of dropped his head and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Oh, no. I was like, she's okay. She's fine. She's healthy." I was like, "In fact, I'm getting tickets for her today to come and her and my brother and my cousin to come and stay a while." I'm like, she's good. She's just my why. She's my X factor. She drives me. She wants me to work, all the sacrifices makes me want to just work hard every day. So he's like, "Oh, okay." So I'm going home after shoot around, getting ready, gonna have to get ready for the game. Pick up the phone. I called the travel agent for the Fever. It's like, "Hey, I need 3 tickets. My mom, my brother, my cousin are coming. Let's get those flights." And she's like, "Okay, we got everything set up." Called my mom, no answer. Called my brother. I was like, "Hey, I'm so excited. I just got you guys tickets." And then my brother paused and he was like, "Mom passed away." My mom had died just a couple hours before that call. And literally the earth was pulled out from under me. My heart was pulled out of my chest. Took a while to kind of gather myself. I started hyperventilating. Like it was nothing that I can describe. The worst thing that I think I had heard. And so within the next hour, I'm on a flight home. And my mom had always told me, she was like, "If I pass away and you have a game, I want you to play." And I look at her and be like, "Mama." She's like, "No, I want you to. I want you to play, and I want you to play so hard and with so much passion. Do it for me." I couldn't. I was too torn up. I cried the whole flight home. And I cried so much to the fact that there was a passenger who finally asked me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, my mom just passed away." And she ended up talking to me the rest of the flight home and consoling me, it was like my mom was the angel looking over me, because when we landed, this lady who had comforted me the whole flight happened to know my brother. And when they saw each other, they just gave each other a big hug. And it was just amazing. So I buried my mother. I flew back to Indiana within the next week or so. And I laced up my shoes and I looked down and I saw that mom, and I played the best basketball of my career. I played the best basketball of my life. I had to. I couldn't do it the night she passed away, but I did it. She still inspires me to this day. To this day. And so when I talk about this story and I talk about resiliency, we go through experiences. And with this experience, I experienced a great loss. A great loss. But again, it was my choice to move on. It was my choice to pick up the pieces. It was harder. But I allowed myself to grieve. I allowed myself to be angry. I allowed myself to be frustrated and sad and even feel the loss. But at some point, we have to move on. So my point here is find your why. What's your reason? What's your X factor? Why do you choose to get up and go on. And if you don't have anybody to choose to get up and go on for, do it for you. Do it for yourself, because you, more than anybody else, deserve it. And then lastly, I have another story. We're talking about a knee injury at 12, losing my mother at 25. What else could go wrong? So now we're talking about my career. I spent 3 years in Indiana. Career was amazing. I grew as a leader there, all good. Go through training camp. So I played 3 years, and then I decided, I need a break. So I wanted to hang up my shoes. Hung up my shoes, went and played over Israel. And then soon after I retired, I knew it was a big mistake. I'm like, what am I doing? I still have some gas left in the tank. And so I decided to go back to the team after some tough conversations with the coach and some honest conversations. I'm like, I don't want to retire. I want to come back. So she's like, okay. So I go up to Texas Tech. This is where I trained, did all my training and got ready. And at Texas Tech, I was working out 3 weeks before training camp, and I took a jump shot and I came down on somebody's ankle or somebody's foot, and I severely sprained my ankle. So severely, the doctor or orthopedic told me that I would have been better off breaking it. So with my ankle black and blue, my leg black and blue, all the way up to my mid calf, I go to the trainer at Texas Tech, who used to be my trainer when I played there. And I was like, I need to get ready for training camp. She was like, okay. And when you need to be ready, I was like, 3 weeks. She looked down at my ankle, looked back at me, and she's like, Chelle, are you out of your damn mind? I'm like, yes. And I'm not missing this training camp. So we do whatever we have to do. We have 3 weeks to do it. So she gave me the prescription. We need to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, cool. Long story short, I go back to the Fever, have a great training camp, probably the best training camp of my life. And I ended up getting cut on the last day of training camp, cut from the team. And that was hard. I was at the height of my career, playing my best basketball, but I got called into the coach's office and they were like, we're going to have to let you go. And it was really tough for me because I knew what I had to go through with that ankle to get there. Long story short, I leave the Fever. I get picked up by the Seattle Storm, and I became a Wnba champion. So the moral of the story is sometimes we fall, and sometimes we fall at the highest of heights. But what I learned in this situation is the higher you are up, you're going to fall a longer way, and it's going to hurt a little bit more, but you're going to bounce up a lot higher too. And so I bounced back and I became a Wnba champion. Wow. Okay. You guys pick up your jaws. I know that's pretty cool. So in closing, the experiences in life don't stop. The solution for me was meditation and mindfulness. And I'm so thankful for those two things, because when they entered my life, I learned so much about myself. They're tools that you need to have in your toolbox. You get to reconnect with yourself. You get to find the strength and the courage and the inner peace that lies within all of us. You get to accept yourself and love yourself. The point is, hurt people hurt people. So if you're hurting, if you don't express your anger, your frustration, your depression, your sadness, you're not only taking it out on you, you're taking it out on people that are around you and the people that love you. So think about generational traumas, thinking about your resiliency. Take a moment in silence. Meditation taught me that in silence, I could find the answers to those questions the answers that I seek. Why is this happening? What is this for? What do I need to learn? You deserve it more than anybody else. And so I leave you with this. Mental health is generational, it's resiliency, and it's elusive. But it doesn't have to be elusive. You can make it inclusive. Face your fears and anxieties and all of your emotions head on. Find a healthy way to cope. Scream when you need to. Take a boxing class and hit something if you need to. And cry if you need to. And lastly, let's love each other. Let's accept each other. Because when everybody is allowed to just be themselves and they're accepted, that makes everybody feel good. And as a wise really inspirational person to me once said, nothing or no one can bring you happiness. What you seek is already within you. I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you so much for this time. Peace and love. Thank you.